Hi, this is Jar Citizen Gamer here today with my ever-present Bastion of Common Sense Lightning Dragon for our monthly sick cast. Should be BlastCast, but I have a pluggy nose and not feeling so well. How are you feeling, Lightning?
I ate too much food, so I'm actually not feeling so hot myself.
So he's gonna be Fartcast, and that actually no
Oh no.
that would be BlastCast. So that we got it nailed. We got it nailed.
Nah, my stomach hurts because I ate too much food.
Mm. Well, today Lightning actually picked a topic. Hey.
Yeah, for once I actually came up with an idea. I was sitting around playing one of my super ancient games, Neverwinter, and not Neverwinter Nights 2, and not Neverwinter Nights by Cryptic. I'm talking about the original one by, what is it? I mean, the original one. Fuck, I can't remember. Atari and... Oh, shit. Well, you're gonna have to edit some of this because
It doesn't matter who it is.
Well, anyway, it was it's old and it's got amazingly dated textures and graphics and stuff,
Right.
and the game actually runs better online than the second one because there was a piece of broken code they never fixed. So the online tanked in Neverwinter Nights 2 until they had some kind of fix and they worked around it. But Neverwinter 2 was pretty much kind of a flop. But Neverwinter Nights 2 was a very watercolory game, and people didn't really like it as much. And the thing that while I'm going this long a roundabout way of talking about this is games do not have to be the best looking thing in the world to keep attractions and stuff. You look at Star Citizen. Star Citizen is trying to make the best looking game and the biggest game, and they're just going all out. They're going for broke. But there's a line that you don't always have to cross for like frame rate versus graphics, right?
Yeah.
High frame rate games, things with lower texture qualities and bigger worlds. Now imagine like GTA 5, right? It's a pretty big game and it's got some pretty good graphics. What if you knock the graphics down like 2 or 3 steps, like generations of video cards, right? So if it could run at max settings on 2 generations of video cards ago, you'd probably have a lot less graphics, or rather a lot less data, so you could load more data and make an even bigger game. Like you could make little islands that actually had like shit on them to do. And I thought it was kind of an interesting thing because that's honestly what's happening with a lot of games today is they push graphics and fidelity and they just want it to be the best looking thing ever, and then you end up with like Call of Duty, Modern Battlefare. You can beat the single player campaign in about 2 hours because there's nothing there. There's no depth to these games.
Oh, and that actually brings up a really good point because like when the console generation came out, this quote unquote next gen, or as I like to call last gen point one, came out. Basically, what they should have done with a lot of these games, I feel, is that what they're always trying to do when they're trying to push for these graphics, it would be better to, as you said, take your Grand Theft Auto and you've got a city. Okay, but now let's expand that to the entire state. And because you have less graphics, you're able to draw in more. You're able to do more. Your focus is in a different direction. Maybe you could have a Grand Theft Auto 5 where you could go into every building in the city as opposed to just a few that are selected.
Which
So
are behind loading screens.
right. So I mean, imagine you could go. Cops are chasing you. You go to a random house. You run to the front door. You go out the back run through the living room. You go out the, this is one thing to me. It's like for a game like Grand Theft Auto, it's always kind of eluded me. It's like, that whole the houses are might as well just be big blocks or big squares sitting there for all intents and purposes. Just create pathways and alleyways, and so yeah, I mean, with Star Citizen, I know they want to push the fidelity really high, and I think for the most part, it can be pretty doable for a space game because a lot of the times you're going to be drawing almost nothing. I mean, you have a
utter blackness.
and a view of utter blackness. Uh, quote Robot Chicken. So yeah, you're basically and where I get concerned is like, okay, you're coming up to a space station and there's like 10 players there, and the space station's a couple miles long, and there's NPCs and whatnot, and then you start seeing your frame rate dive. Now, I'm not worried about it on my PC, especially when they move to DirectX 12, but there's a lot of people who, right now, when they look at the persistent universe, even if it's not optimized, which it's not, it's getting better, it's going to come to a situation where uh, their computers are just going to start choking, just start choking and dying, putting this all together.
Reach up there with your staff of Ra. Sorry, that's a funny episode. Robot Chicken is awesome. Tangent over.
And if you want to know the additional sound effects going on, that's the neighbor's dogs. They are loud, and I do apologize.
Oh, I haven't heard anything yet.
Oh, well, if you haven't heard it yet, be thankful. I get to hear it all day, every day.
Woohoo! Go dog things. Oh, yeah.
So,
it's the best thing ever.
There's another way to approach graphics, too, that keeps frame rate consistently high, but also, I think, holds the test of time. Now, a lot of times when you're looking at graphics, you go for like a very realistic. I think remember when the MMO came out, Conan, they were bragging about how awesome it looked, how realistic it looks. But now you look at it like 10 years later, however many years it's been, and it looks like garbage compared to a lot of the other things. But you look at a stylized game, something like Borderlands, and what you get is you end up getting a game that still looks good 10 years later because it was going for a comic booky, cartoony kind of feel, and that doesn't change.
Yeah,
and
it'll always be the same. You can kind of apply that same comparison with like Champions Online and even Star Trek Online. They're maybe not the most graphically amazing games, but they're definitely not ugly to look at.
No, Star Trek a little bit less so because I do kind of go for a little bit more realistic, but definitely Champions will hold its own for a long time because it's a comic book world and a comic book characters, and it just looks the way it's supposed to, and that's fine. Um, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Star Citizen had chosen. Okay, let's say we're gonna keep everything the same. The exception is we're gonna go ahead and do the graphics of cell shading or whatnot. And think how much faster they could develop ships, how much faster they could put things together, and even the damage engine, how much quicker all of it could come together. Now I understand. I mean, I love the graphics the way they are right now, but I always wonder how much further, how much bigger the game could be if more effort or more energy was put into systems and mechanics in the world, as opposed to how the bitmaps work on the headline of the ship.
How many polygons you can cram onto one ship?
Yeah. So
which is kind of what it feels like they're doing sometimes.
To some degree, but they've actually managed to lower the polygons on a lot of the ships and actually make them look better. They're learning, and it's great. There's a lot of good optimization, and the streaming tech is coming along.
Cough, cough, Hornet, cough, cough.
And the Hornet's getting a whole redo, and I'm
it
thankful
needs
for that.
It so badly.
Oh yeah. That is the quintessential first string itis ship right there.
Yeah, I mean they went and did a second pass on the Bonnie, and the new Freelancer's coming out here soon. Actually, no, the new Freelancer came out already, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, but it might be getting some updates with the new shaders from the Reliant.
You look at the original Connie to what it is now, and you go, yeah, it's the same ship, obviously, but boy, does it look a lot better. Things are laid out nicer on the inside. I mean, it's just overall, it's a much better looking ship. And, we're going to see the same thing with the Hornet. Hopefully they just go, well, let's see, the Gladius looks amazing. Not Gladius, the Gladiator. Too many Glad something names.
It's true.
And then, anyway, just kind of apply that to the Hornet. Because, I mean, I mentioned it before. I don't know if it's on any of the podcast videos, but, I mean, the Hornet looks like we made a cockpit, we made a ball turret, we made some wings, we made an engine. How do we get them all together? I mean, it looks like there was separate teams working on everything. They just looked like they were Legos, and they were just, plugged into a main body. And there's nothing wrong with the Hornet. I think it's a fine ship. It's just, it's ugly. And Star Citizen, they're trying to go for this realistic, physics-based game, and you look at a ship like the Hornet, and you just like, that wouldn't work, guys.
It's not only ugly, it's unrealistically small compared to the systems. They can't even fit the systems inside of it because of the way it's made, and that's why they're redoing the whole thing. Don't be surprised when you see the Super Hornet be bigger than even the Saber, or at least as big as the Saber, because it should realistically be a much larger ship than it currently is. And you're going to see the mass change on it and a lot of different things. I have no doubt, because they talked about how they're going to have a new system for measuring mass, but that's neither here nor there. So what I'd like is anyone here that actually manages to find this on YouTube, or
In the giant pile of that is YouTube.
in the giant pile that is YouTube. What are your thoughts about graphics versus frame rate? Which one do you think is more important? I mean, for me, I've always preferred, to an extent, a mediocre looking game with a beautiful frame rate, consistency, smooth across the board. I would take that almost any day of the week over a top notch looking game that runs well some of the time. Now, my computer can run Star Citizen full graphics, everything, and get ridiculous frame rates, but that
You don't,
costs it.
yeah, you don't want to have
Yeah,
5 to 6 grand in a computer to play one game, and that's where the problem comes from. So if they went with, I mean, I'm not a
he's not
huge fan.
exaggerating, by the way.
No, I'm not. I'm
No,
really not.
no, he's not exaggerating about my computer, by the way. He's not. This
But
thing stands high as my waist on the floor. It's a monster.
you look at Borderlands, and Borderlands is always going to look like Borderlands. Now, some people may not like the style. I personally am kind of mixed either way. But I mean, you wouldn't have to I'm going to make Borderlands in space. You don't have to do that. You can kind of take, well, we like this idea and this concept, and we'll put our own spin on it. So you could have something like with Champions. Champions and Borderlands have a lot of similar graphically visual, but they're
Hmm.
not the same type. They're completely different. And you could really kind of go above and beyond. I mean, and this isn't just about Star Citizen. This is about all games.
Oh yeah,
We
we're not
don't
we're not
need
picking on Star
more.
Citizen.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no.
we love I love Star Citizen. I'm a big backer into. I'm what the community refer to as a whale. I mean, I am big into Star Citizen, so I'm not dissing it. But it's a curiosity to me. I've always wondered, for some people, it's all about the graphics. For some people, it's all about other things. For me, I like to find a nice stable game that looks good, and it hits that tolerable level where you can get into it, where it's immersive, and it's just smooth as silk.
Yeah, imagine playing a game that maybe is not the most visually pleasing, but your playable area is like the size of New York State. I'm not talking about New York City. I'm talking about New York State or Wyoming, right? Big vast plains. Anything can render vast plains. Or any country. What if the entire continent of Britain was a playable environment and you could run around or fly jets or whatever type of thing, because they didn't go for hyper realistic graphics or 3D gimmicks or things. And I mean, sandbox games are going to be more affected by this than other things. But even if you look
Yeah,
at Call of Duty, right? How many levels could you have at launch? And as opposed to, oh no, here's a perfect example: Battlefront. Sorry, EA Battlefront, which launched with what, 5 maps, maybe
I think
4
four.
maps,
I think
4
four.
maps. Now, if they didn't want that to be the most jaw-dropping, visually stunning game, which it is, I'm not going to argue that it's not a good-looking game. If they went with,
It's no Battlefront 2. It's no Battlefront 2.
yeah, if they went with like updated Battlefront 2 graphically on a better engine, could they have released like 10 maps and 10 guns? I mean, there's what, 6 guns in the game, and there's like 2 that are usable because they're horribly broken and unbalanced. But it's completely different. I mean, you have 4 maps. And who cares how good it's looking? I mean, if you played in GTA and you could only play in 3 square blocks of the city, pretty soon you're done playing the game because it's the same 3 blocks of the city over and over. And there's no depth and there's no scale to games that just shoehorn in best graphics at the expense of everything else.
Yeah, and I guess that's definitely what I guess when I look at the Star Citizen development, like they talk about that mining base that a lot of part of Squadron 42 is centered around. And I remember like 2 years ago they were talking about it, showing like gray boxes of it, and they're still building it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and to me, I'm like, Yeah, it's an asset that's going to be reused, and yes, I know that there's modular components of it that they can take it apart and put it together, and it'll be used in other ways in other areas. But
Which I think that's the only way Star Citizen can do what it's trying to
oh
do.
yeah,
They have to build modular, otherwise we won't see the game done. So the
no,
people that joke about, oh, 2020 when the game's released, yuck yuck, or 27, I saw that recently.
yeah,
The game is going to be released this year, guys. Just how much of it we're getting is what is the question right now.
I see what I believe what they're going to do is that they're going to give us a beta first 3 missions maybe where you have to make a choice, and then let us play that and then bug test it and then figure out what's going on. And when that gets stable, then they'll start releasing maybe another 3 missions to us on those branches or whatnot. And then basically I think that's how they're going to do it. They're going to let us play test the missions through, and then when it gets to that certain point where maybe all the early backers have played the entire thing, they're going to go, boom, here's the release version, go for it. And we play tested it, we bug tested it, it works. Now here's the retail version, and it's out there. So, and just as a reminder, I know I just put a video up on it, guys. This is your last week to get a package without having to buy a separate Squadron 42 and Star Citizen experience.
Single player and persistent universe.
Yeah. My referral key's down below. If you haven't picked one up yet, you'll get an extra 5,000 UEC, and then I'll let you get a few more toys for your hangar and maybe a weapon for your ship. If you have any questions or on the fence about the game, always feel free to contact me. You can leave comments down below. You can contact me on Twitter at the Citizen Gamer, and I will be happy to go over any concerns that you have. I am not a white knight of the game by any measure of means. Believe me, I've been kicked off the forum a few times for
Yeah,
fighting.
you don't know when to shut up sometimes.
Yeah, very true. So I mean, I stand up, and I point out things, and I'm willing to tell you straight up the way it is, and not BS you. So uh, feel free to go ahead and leave comments down below. And you can also find a link to Lightning Dragon's channel down there. Sometimes we do fun things on there, let's plays, or armored warfare, or other things like that. And that kind of goes on his channel. And once again, I'm Jar's Citizen Gamer. This is Lightning Dragon over here. Say bye, Lightning.
Bye, Lightning.
See, yeah, I got him trained, so that's why all the let's plays go over there. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening today, and we'll catch you next time.